So it's finally over. It's finally over, y'all. Well, at least for one guy. Russell Wilson has finally been traded, and it is not to the Philadelphia Eagles. To some dismay, to a lot of people's delight. But I want to ask the question, did the Philadelphia Eagles miss out, or did we get lucky with the Russell Wilson trade? What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast. So today I want to talk about Russell Wilson, and I want to talk about if the Philadelphia Eagles may have missed out, or did we dodge a bullet with this trade? Now, before we get into that, let's be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family. We are on the road to 4K, and we would love for you guys to join that ride. But let's just get right into it. So Russell Wilson, for the better part of last year, going into this off season, he was the topic of the town, right? Whether it was him saying he didn't want to come to Philadelphia, whether it was random reporters saying that he did, he was always a name that the Philadelphia Eagles fan base and front office, I'm sure, kept an eye on, right? Howie Roseman wanted his quarterback. So did a lot of people, right? Washington wanted a quarterback. They didn't seem to get it, but it is what it is. I digress, right? So let's look at this trade, and let's look who really won this trade. Obviously, they gave up 2 first, 2 second round picks with some 5th round picks. There was other thing. The Russell Wilson and a 5th round pick was all the Seahawks had to give up, and they got a bevy of picks. Now, obviously, they move up to that number 9 pick where the Denver Broncos were. Are the Seahawks looking to maybe replace, Russell Wilson right away? I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into those details. But what I want to say is if the Philadelphia Eagles, obviously we didn't have the number 9 pick, so our pick would have had to have been the number 15 pick. So if we were to do something comparable, which it sounds like the Philadelphia Eagles were in, at least Howie Roseman sent a couple offers, it sounds like, if we were to give up the 15th, right, next year's 1st round pick, our 2nd round pick this year, next year's 2nd round pick, they probably would have wanted more in the way of players. Obviously, they were able to get Noah Fant and Shelby Harris. I don't know who's comparable. So maybe you're looking at having to give up a Dallas Goedert. Maybe you're looking at having to give up a Javon Hargrave or a Milton Williams or someone along those lines. So, or maybe even a Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat could have been a name they might have brought up. Was I ready to do that? No. I just don't think that, one, we had the assets to go ahead and do that, and 2, we don't have the players to just throw away players and take on dead cap space. We would have had to take on dead cap space somewhere. I know everybody, for some reason, I think people watch titles and not videos, so when people bring up Fletcher Cox, they say, oh yeah, he's washed, let's get rid of him. And no matter what you think about him on the field, there is a money aspect to this, and the Philadelphia Eagles would be idiots to just eat $26 million, especially, and the Seahawks, why would they want a Fletcher Cox and have to bring on that contract? They're not a team that's going to be trying to compete this year, at least I would assume so, right? You're going through a whole rebuild. So for me, it was just unrealistic from the beginning, but even so, even if the Eagles would have had enough assets to pull those triggers, I just don't see the need in giving up all those picks. The Eagles are in a spot that we need to get younger. We need to get guys that are going to grow with this team. We need to get guys that are going to not only be developed, right, but have the opportunity, to be developed at a cheap rate. Because even DK Metcalf, we talk a lot about DK Metcalf in Seattle on their fire sale right now. Would they be willing to give up DK Metcalf? I've seen people saying, let's give up a 15, let's give up our 16, our 19. I'm just not there. I'm sorry. I'm not in a position right now that I want to pay anybody that's not going to make us an instant Super Bowl contender. And no matter how DK Metcalf, how good he is, I just don't think that he would add that to our team. We keep on saying, let's add weapons for Jalen Hurts. But realistically, Jalen Hurts' main strength right now is his legs and his escapability. So let's continue to build on that running game, if anything, and I just don't see how DK Metcalf helps in that regard. I just think that that's a big contract that you're going to have to pay. We're seeing these contracts coming out to over $20 million a year. The Eagles just aren't in that position right now. We're just not. So no matter how much you want to twist and turn and say that, we were 9-8 with Jalen Hurts, what would we have been with a Russell Wilson? Well, I don't think we would have been a way better team, because Russell Wilson's strengths just don't line up with the strengths of our team right now. I know that our offensive line is probably top 2, top 3, probably the best in the NFL, if we're being 100% honest, but they're great, and their paycheck comes from the run game, especially last year, and having a quarterback like Jalen Hurts just adds to that. I don't think that we had... You step Russell Wilson into this team, he's going to be facing kind of the same thing he was facing in Seattle. Outside of having a bad offensive line, obviously, we give you an upgrade there, but he's going to be downgrading at the wide receiver position. He's going to be probably taking a sideways step when you look at our defense. So why do that if I'm him either way, right? And as an Eagles fan, we have to look at that and be realistic that we have to shore up this defense. We have to get this offense some young, viable weapons. And yes, I do want to know another wide receiver. I've been on the train of saying that we have to go get us somebody in this free agency, whether it be a veteran or maybe a young guy like a Christian Kirk that can play kind of a niche role, right? He can kind of be our slot guy and maybe be more. He's still very young, but these guys are going to get overpaid also. So you look at it, I'd rather overpay somebody in free agency and not have to give up a draft pick than have to pay somebody like a DK. I love DK Metcalf, and I do think that he's a far and above better option than 99% of the guys in free agency. And I say 99 just because to leave that little bit of space for error, right? But, he's better than a lot of options out there, but that first round pick just really kills me. If you really want a wide receiver that bad, and I understand that we're going to say it's unknown, right? We don't know what they are. Go ahead and get one of you're going to be in a position to get a Chris Olave if you want. You can get a Traylon Burks most likely at that position, a Drake London, right? There's a lot of names, and even if you go deeper into this draft, there's a lot of good wide receivers. This draft, we're sitting here almost in the end of March, right? Almost towards the halfway spot of March, I should say, and there's still no number one wide receiver. There's still no real number one consensus, D lineman, offensive lineman, quarterback. Like, you look at this draft, it's still so wide open, and I don't think that's because they're all bad. I think that there's not very much difference. There's difference in play styles from these guys and these kids, but I don't think that there's much of a difference in as far as their ceiling. I think all these guys can be very good. They have the size, they have the speed, the athleticism, and they've put out some good things on tape as far as this wide receiver group goes. So if you want to take a stab at a wide receiver in the first round, I can eat that more, because if DK Metcalf comes to this offense and can't get going, and he gets frustrated after this year because Jalen Hurts isn't getting him the ball as much as he'd like, right? That's a real possibility. And if that happens, we just gave up a first round pick for somebody that's going to probably want to move on in a couple years, if not right after his rookie contract expires. He might just say, I don't want to extend my contract. So these are real possibilities that we have to look at. And while I think that the Eagles would have definitely benefited from Russell Wilson, right? We're going to bring this back and tie it up in a bow. While I do think that the Eagles would have benefited from having a Russell Wilson on this team, I think that, you would have seen a better year out of Devontae Smith, probably a better year out of your Dallas Goedert, maybe Quez Watkins. Outside of that, we have so many holes. We wouldn't have won many more games with that defense that we were playing with, and it just is what it is. There were some games that Jalen Hurts lost us. I'll be 100% honest about there, but there were numerous games that this defense just took us out of the game before it even started. So, look, I don't think we missed out on this trade. I think we dodged a bullet. I really do think that. I really do feel that Russell Wilson was just far too costly for us. So I don't know how much it was his decision. I'm sure Russell Wilson probably was like, listen, this is where I want to go. So maybe we didn't make the decision to not give up all those picks and give up, the world for him. But if we did, if Howie just said, listen, this is too rich for my blood, and pulled out, God bless you, Howie. You're invited back to the barbecue, because I would have been royally peeved. Royally, that means upset for y'all. That's the word of the day. I would have been royally peeved if we would have went ahead and gave up all these draft picks, because, again, we didn't have the 19th. So who's to say they didn't say we need the 15th and the 19th? Or we didn't have the 9th, excuse me. So who's to say they wouldn't have said we need the 15th and the 19th? Who's to say that? Then you give up 2 first this year or first next year. They probably would have really came after our marbles. So I'm glad we didn't do that. You guys let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Did you feel like we missed out on Russell Wilson, or do you think we dodged a bullet? Let me know. But other than that, y'all know what it is. It is Fly Eagles Fly. And we are out here. Peace!
Yeah, Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown, time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird gang nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man saw Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randall. Season here, early time to do him in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.